I am the technical training manager for the East Coast region, as you can see on my card. I've been here 5 years, just over 5 years. I started as the regional in the Midwest. So I covered 11 states before we had our new sales structure where we have, what, 35 salespeople now? Covering our residential business and our commercial together. When I was a regional in the Midwest, I just covered food service, and there was 5 of us. So that tells you how different things are now. So I worked in the Midwest on the distribution side, and then went into OEM for a little while, like six months, until we established our training team. So I have a fellow trainer here in the back. That's Mark. Mark covers the central region. He's new to us, but not new to training. We've got Larry from Empire here, your distributor. We've got Aaron, who is your Pentair salesperson. And then there are other couple Pentair people who might pop back in here. I'll introduce them as they do. But we came with the whole crew today. There's our regional operations manager who works on the same team as Mark and I in the training side of things. He's like a field engineer. He's back there with Stacy right now, training him on one of our big units. So whole clan. You guys are lucky. So yeah, I'll just jump right into it. You'll see this slide a lot today. This is how we kind of view food service, okay? We're going to focus mostly on the food service product today with the exception of this, but if you have residential questions, please feel free to ask. But from a product perspective, this is where we're going to stick. This we call our Everpure Grill. This is all the places in a food service establishment that you're going to have water, okay? And this is how we want to look at the footprint of any food service. If someone's calling you about an ice machine or you're focusing on an ice machine, chances are they've got some, if not all, of this equipment in the back. So it's a huge opportunity. We do point of entry type systems, anywhere from water softeners to big ROs that can be plumbed anywhere you need them. So new construction situations, remodels, that's when you can really get into that point of entry. I know you guys do a lot of that already, but if you're getting involved with the Pentair stuff, that's when you just give us a call. We'll help you out in the process. And then we have all of our point of use product. So everything in here needs filtration, however you want to get it to them. You can group things together, where we call those combination systems. So all of your beverage can be on one, your beverage and ice, or beverage, coffee and ice, however you want to do that, your drinking water. You can group steam applications together, multiple ice machines, however we need it. We've got systems for it. All right? And you guys know water, so I'm not going to talk to you about water, but if you have questions, feel free. All right? This is all about you. So everything we do on food service falls under 2 categories: equipment protection and product quality. That's it. And equipment performance, we want the equipment to last as long as it's supposed to last to get through its warranty. If somebody buys an ice machine, we don't want it to fail and have them have to get a new one before their 5-year warranty or 3-year warranty, whatever it is. We want it to get through there. We don't want the equipment failing on a Saturday night when a restaurant's at their busiest. We just want it, if it's on a PM schedule of every 6 months, we want the service guys to be able to go out there every 6 months and not more than that, okay? We don't want them cleaning ice machines every month, every week. That's wasted time, wasted effort, wasted labor, okay? Product quality is pretty self-explanatory. If it's Coke and Pepsi, we want it to taste like Coke and Pepsi. If it's coffee, we want it to taste good and not moldy. If it's Starbucks, Starbucks has their set taste profile, things like that. So that's all we're really doing. It's not rocket science. The equipment performance, that's where in the water world we get scale. And you guys are familiar with scale, I'm told, right? Corrosion, it's not a big word around here either, is it? And slime in ice machines. So that's, again, not rocket science, just a few things we're trying to solve. We have a whole slew of solutions to solve those few problems. And how we get there, or actually here's the why we do it. It's really all about the manufacturer's specifications. So warranty is a big piece of what we do and why we want to give the right solution up front. Because each piece of equipment under each application uses water differently. And there's certain contaminants that affect each of those pieces of equipment differently. So we want to make sure that we're delivering the water quality for that piece of equipment that is within the manufacturer's specs so that we can be within warranty. So the manufacturer specifications vary greatly. This over here is a espresso machine, and you can see it's actually pretty vague. It just says water hardness cannot exceed 3 grains per gallon or 50 parts per million. But that's also pretty tough to achieve on just raw water. So that they're saying here you're going to have to do something, okay? And then they basically say meet this or you're not going to get your warranty. If you don't meet this, I can easily say, oh, sorry, not giving you a new machine, your labor for getting that fixed isn't covered, stuff like that. So that's how they get around that. This over here is actually a steamer or a combi oven. You guys familiar with combi ovens and steamers? So this is a very strict spec. And they get really tight like this. I mean, this one even has a silica spec of no more than 13 parts per million. Chlorine, hardness, pH, all that's familiar to you. Sulfates, none of these are unfamiliar. They even have a chloramine spec too. So we want to make sure that we get that, or like I said, they're out of warranty. And in our catalog, we have some general specs from years and years and years of experience of working with these manufacturers and working with water, that we know water within these ranges is pretty much going to meet everybody's spec. So in our catalog, we just split it up by application. And the reason we split it up by application is, again, because each one of those manufacturers' equipment, whether it's making ice or it's making fountain or if it's making steam, they all use water differently. So that's why we split it up like this. So when it comes to hot side and cold side, you know, whether we're making ice or fountain, that's the cold side, it's a lot easier to meet the specifications. The specs are a lot wider, not as tight. This pretty much for fountain beverage is safe drinking water, with the exception of an alkalinity spec here. Because when you get into alkalinity issues, you can get into issues with trying to get your soda to carbonate, okay? We get into ice, it's just a little tighter. I mean, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. I just want you guys to get the idea. You start to see there's a little bit more of a TDS range, no more than 200 parts per million. You start to get a chloride range there, but still not too stringent. Coffee and espresso start to get a little tighter. Now, a lot tighter. This spec comes from the Specialty Coffee Association, where a group of chemists sat in a room for God knows how long and spent so many millions of dollars to test water and all these different types of waters with all these different roasts of coffee to determine, based on their fancy, expensively insured taste buds, that coffee within this range makes the best, or water within this range makes the best coffee. So that's all that really is. You start to get down into Starbucks approved specs and things like that, and it's actually even tighter range. But now we see total dissolved solid 70 to 200 parts per million, but, and actually there should be a chloride spec in here. I think it got cut off. The chloride spec should be no higher than 50 parts per million, and we can talk about why later. But you guys are familiar with chlorides, right, when it comes to corrosion? Yeah. So chlorides, your dissolved salts, are pretty nasty stuff. And when you put that into a $15,000 imported espresso brewer from Germany or from Italy, and you put it into a pressurized boiler made of copper, that's not a good thing. So we really want to watch those chlorides. And I don't know why that's cut off. It's weird. All right, steam. Now steam is the most stringent because we're heating water way above boiling point to make steam. So you start to see this is even tighter. Now our chlorides go from 50 on coffee and espresso to 30. And when it comes to corrosion and metal, you will get corrosion anything over 0 parts per million of chlorides. It's just the amount of time that it takes to get there and the temperature at which you're doing what you're doing, okay? So higher temperatures, the faster it happens. We just cut it off at 30 because that's what the manufacturers are cutting it off at. Some of them are a little higher than that, some of them are a little lower, but this is our generalized spec as we've determined. If we're if you call into our tech service and you say, I've got this make and model of a steamer or combi oven, if we don't know that exact manufacturer spec, we'll look it up. But let's say for some random reason we can't find it, we will specify within this range, okay? But normally we're going to try to look it up and find what that manufacturer says specifically and try to be within that. So the more you know about the water when you're using our equipment, the better. But we also know that you don't always know the water. So it's better just to have something than nothing. But when you have the scale and the corrosion and the slime after the fact, that's when we can come in and we can really dig out what's going on with the water and stuff like that. And that's when we start to get into our water reports. But I know you guys do some in-house testing as well, right? Or some field testing maybe. I know Stacy does.
Stacy mostly. I mean, I think when we mostly kind of handle it. It's a case-by-case basis. And usually, if we do the water testing, it's sort of self-driven by the consumer.
Right, right.
Yeah.
We
And
use
that's
the
probably
watershed
something.
test kits from National Testing Labs primarily.
Okay, yeah, we do those as well. So you're going to get the same parameters, it's just not going to look like this. This is one of our other labs. But again, depending on what we're doing, we start to look at all these things differently. Okay, chlorides, turbidity, stuff like that. So again, not going to spend a ton of time here. I just want to show you guys some of this. So let's jump right into the product and like how we're doing it. Okay. All of our filters contain carbon. You know, filtration, carbon is the main media used in filtration with the addition of some things here and some things there, okay? So our medias that are carbon-based are just broken into three different ones. We've got our carbon blocks, and I'm sure you're familiar with carbon block. We do have some granulated carbon out there in a lot of our stuff, but that's some small inlines, some things we have around our drop-in Pentair line. But when it comes to the Everpure, we have carbon block, we have what's called our pre-coat, and we have our Fiberdyne, okay? Carbon block is an extruded carbon block. It comes out like Play-Doh and just is cut to certain lengths, depending on the width. All of the Everpure cartridges are all the silver cans. They're all kind of the same. And we just cut it to whatever length that we need it. And our filters come in different sizes, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And we don't have another one here, but we have what's called our 4-size can. An I-2000, which is a little longer than this, is a 7-size can. If you have it a little smaller, we've got some that are a 2, that are like half of this. We even have little tiny ones that aren't in our catalog that are 1, which are kind of cool. The membranes for our ROs are actually at the XC length, which is the same as the like the I-2000, or I'm sorry, the I-4000. Okay, so that one you'd be familiar with. So the measurement, like this isn't called a 4 because it's so many inches or whatever. That's just the name that we've given it from a sizing perspective. Okay. But the carbon block is the carbon block. They're 5 micron. In the naming conventions of our cartridges, that's going to be the 4CB5. That would stand for it being a 4-size can. Carbon block is a CB, and 5 is your 5 micron. So if there's a 5 after the name, it's a 5 micron. That doesn't necessarily go for if there isn't a 5, because normally the stuff that does not have a 5 is a half a micron, but it's not as cut and dry as the 5 is. So you can easily say, if there's a 5, it's a 5 micron, good to go. The pre-coat, this is our legacy technology. So since the 80s, we came out with it. Oops, I'm sorry, that's not it. Pulled up the wrong one. This is what our I-2000 is, our MH, BH, MC. Okay, these are all pre-coat cartridges. This was our bread and butter for the longest time, because when you have carbon block and filtration, you can only do so much. You can only get so much flow rate. If you want flow rate and capacity, you just have to get a bigger and bigger cartridge. Wider, longer, they're easily breakable, can't really ship them around very easy. So how do we get more capacity at a half a micron and get a better flow rate. So that's when we invented this. And this is the pre-coat design. So when you pull out an i2000 and it's brand new, it's going to look like this. All right. It's got this cool septum. It's kind of like Tyvek wrap, and you can see what it's like under the stuff here. You get a lot more surface area because the way filtration works is you're limited to the surface area, right? So on a carbon block, you're limited to just this outside surface area, which opened up isn't that much. But if you open up a pre-coat, you've got all this added capacity. You got both sides. Now it's accordion, it's smushed together and stuffed in the can. The carbon itself is this powdered carbon, which is what we call our microblend. It's very, very fine carbon with some diatomaceous earth and fun things like that. So you can take a look. But it's delicious. I don't know if I would eat it. Man, you drop one of those things and break that open, that stuff, can't wash it off for a year. It's so powdered, so fine. But the way these work is you turn the water on, it runs down to the middle, out this duck-billed check valve, spins around that loose carbon. Because when the filter's new, there's all this loose carbon down here at the bottom, and that septum is nice and white. So as you spin around that loose carbon, it creates a sludge and throws it up all on top of that septum, and that's how you get your media set and ready to go. So when you get a new i2000, MC, BH, MH, they do need to be flushed. So if you've been in the industry for a while, we used to call it activation or flushing or whatever they call it. But they do need to be flushed for a few minutes because of that process. And then you don't get the extra carbon fines. I mean, you guys know, it doesn't even matter if you've got a little drop-in cartridge for a refrigerator pitcher. You still have to rinse those cartridges for a period of time, whether you're soaking them in a cup or you're running water through them. So people have a tendency to kind of complain about that flushing process, but it needs to be done on everything regardless. You just don't want that loose carbon going off into your coffee or whatnot. It scares people. But that septum is a half micron, so it was a great way for us to get that submicron filtration. And you guys know why we want submicron filtration, right? NSF? Yeah. So that's how we get our NSF 53 for the cyst rating. And you guys know what cysts are? Parasites.
Courtney, what happens if you don't flush this cartridge?
They could easily clog. They get short life. Just because you haven't given enough time for that water to flow through there. Or just poor filtration. It would be an uneven filtration across that septum. That's, I'm not a product manager. I don't know exactly, I question that myself because if you're running it to drain, it's the same flow rate as if you're running it to the equipment. So I don't know, but that's what I'm told. So uneven filtration and potential early clogging would be an issue.
Now you're running water that's potentially not even going to contact
right.
carbon.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to run your coffee brewer right away without carbonation.
Right.
But that loose carbon will eventually coat septum. You just don't want to drink that coffee right away necessarily. Okay. So does that make sense? Half micron, our cyst rating. Nobody gets cryptosporidium, Giardia, that kind of stuff. All right. This is just shows a little bit more of the surface area situation. The carbon block 5 micron. Now the cool thing, are you guys familiar with our FC products? The 7FC, FC-S. Yeah, you've maybe seen them.
Them really. I don't know much about them.
Yeah. They are our higher capacity, higher flow rate, higher capacity. So an i2000 has 1.67 gallons per minute flow rate and a 9,000 gallon capacity at a half a micron. As, we invented that in the 80s. As time has gone on and progressed, you can walk into not a grocery store now, a C-store, a convenience store, or a gas station, And they went from maybe just having 5 soda flavors to 25 soda flavors. Well, to meet the flow rate demands, we need higher capacity filtration. And we build all of our systems in parallel so that we can meet those demands. But if you've got, let's say you've got a bank of Coke machines, okay, and you've got 4 MCs in there. What's 9 times 4? 36. So that's 36,000 gallon capacity. That's still good capacity. But what if I've got a whole room full of Coke machines? Now I might need 50,000 or 100,000 gallons. How do I get there? You know? Well, in the old days, we would put on separate systems to meet those demands. But when we came out with the Fiberdyne, we were able to go to all of those on one system. Because the Fiberdyne at the same size, so this unfortunately is a 4, but an I-2000 is a 7 size can, 9,000 gallon capacity, or an MC, same thing, 9,000 gallons. An FC of the same size, so a 7 FC, has 25,000 gallon capacity, 2.5 gallon flow rate.